Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm going to just quickly um, get this going for the day. I'm starting a little early today, but I got a long day ahead of me, and I figure I do my market update earlier so that I can get my day started for other things I need to do. So, with that, I'm just going to post this and take it from there. Uh, Morning update markets. Um, okay. So I see someone has joined me. Let's see here. And okay, I'm not sure who's here just yet. I can't seem to see that at the moment. But thank you for joining. And we just wait for a couple other people. And I'm going to have to learn how to work on this. Hey, Kathy, how are you? You're up bright and early as well. So that's good. I like to try to get a jump on my day too, because then you just feel like you get more done. Isn't it nice? There's just so much to do in the same number of hours every day. And so, okay, and I'm just going to post it on my LinkedIn. Thank you guys for being so patient. Maybe I should do a music video to start when I'm doing this every morning. Just kidding around. Um, okay, so a couple things is I'm looking at the news on the top stories today. Yesterday was a huge sell-off, as I kind of talked about last night. Futures look as though they're down a little bit more today. What's spooking the markets? Obviously, there was some news that came out of Australia yesterday with new laws that impact tech in a big way. I think long term they're beneficial to the American consumer, but short term it's going to cause some pain on margins on some of these companies and might, I guess, impact their revenue model aside from their cost structure. So it's going to hit them on both sides. They're going to have to pay out more money, and it might impact their revenue as well. Pay out more money to the creators of the content and revenue as well, because once they have to start paying for content, the content creators can go shop a little more effectively. So you're having more of a true market return to social media, which is a super positive development for everybody. And it will help break the monopoly of information that's taking place right now, because when they didn't have to pay for information, they could just use whatever creators they want. They can curate whatever message they want about anything and pocket all the money in the process. So the people that were trying to come up with alternative messages, not only were they not getting paid, they were being cut out of the discussion. And so that's why it's a very big win for freedom around the world, not just yet. It hasn't spilled over everywhere, but it definitely has started in Australia. So good day, mates, to everybody over there getting this job done. The other thing that's kind of spooking people is inflation. That's why interest rates kind of spiked. They went up quite a bit yesterday. They're up a little more today. And for those of you who are still trying to understand the markets a little more, usually not usually, most of the time, there's rare occasions, when interest rates go up, asset prices go down, because the value of a company is the present value of the future cash flow discounted to the present. So you have to look at how much money a company can make over time. You look at that earnings stream and you discount it based on the interest rate that you use to the present to come up with what it's worth. When you do this across individual companies, across an economy, each 1-2 basis points has an impact on valuation across the entire economy. So this is why it's extremely important to try to keep inflation in check, as well as price stability in an economy. Price stability is critically important as well, because in the advent of prices collapsing or coming down, it can have the effect of destroying demand, or not destroying demand, destroying supply, as if prices continue to fall, the suppliers take capacity offline and possibly permanently because they're not sure if they're going to make any money. So that's why deflation can be a really devastating type of thing, as countries have witnessed, like Japan is the biggest example. So today there's a few companies that reported, and I posted a comment this morning about software, and I didn't know CRM was reporting today, which is Salesforce.com. Now, I just want to make one thing clear about any commentary with regards to stocks. I have no view either direction, not long, not short. I'm just strictly talking about the company, kind of like a friend. So they think of me as like talking about these various companies as though they're different people. And, I happen to be, I'm in a regulated industry. I'm not giving any investment advice. Please don't construe anything I'm saying as investment advice. If you go to Preactive, which is my company, and you sign up for the newsletter and read some of my stuff over time, and you want to become a client that's different, then we could talk about companies. But for the time being, please don't use the information other than for your own purposes when you do your analysis. So I wrote this a couple hours ago, or I guess at 4:30. I woke up early today. There's an attempt, and it's working so far, of software companies to dig their hooks into every single human activity and create a new form of slavery in which they threaten to turn you off. And this isn't just social media. This is other types of companies too, across all types of industries. After you have built your system, business, etc., using their software, if you don't continually pay them an ever increasing share of your money each year, so they kind of get you in the door, you're using the software, and then they jack you in the face. And a lot of companies are doing this. The other thing I would mention, and this isn't in my little write-up, but the other thing I would mention about that is when you put your information up onto the cloud, or you put information onto a bill, like one of these little group sharing platforms, and even this information I'm sharing on YouTube, you better assume that they're quantifying, they're taking any insights, and they're incorporating them as their own. So it's a bizarre situation, because I personally despise companies that do this without paying each person fairly, but I still have to use them because there are no alternatives. So that's why I'm saying, there's some, and I'm trying to migrate to some of these other alternatives, but it's extremely disturbing that somehow we didn't move a little faster. And I say somehow, the collective we. Why didn't we see this a little sooner, and people didn't sound the alarm? But with this little write-up at 4:30 a.m., Salesforce comes out today and announces that they're at 20% earnings growth. 20%, not bad. When the economy was down 2% last year, 2.5%, 10 million people lose their job. Salesforce continues to go up 20%. And then they said they're going to grow another 20% in the next 12 months. And I can't help but think, and I didn't look at the valuation, so I have no opinion on valuation. I'm strictly talking about what they're telling everybody in the market. And this is Mark Beinoff, who founded Salesforce. For those of you who may or may not know him, he's a pretty hardcore lefty, and he supports a lot of the communist agendas and globalism and one new world order. So his company is probably one of the most powerful companies on the planet, because it has information about everybody listening to this, myself, I'm sure, because the companies use their platform to collect all this data about us. It says customer relationship management software. So if you call in and you ask for help for something, if you buy something, they get your information. So all these different companies, the biggest ones in the United States, probably globally as well, are using this. So you ask yourself, how are they growing earnings so fast? Well, now that he has everybody hooked into this software, they have licensing agreements, they have subscription agreements where they have to stay on. He can keep raising the rates, and it's first of all, so I don't like the fact that there aren't more alternatives. I happen to find a company that I'm going to use for CRM where I own the software. And I'll tell you the name of it, and you guys can look it up yourself. It's called Goldmine. And Goldmine is a company that's been around for a while. It's owned by a private equity firm, I think, out of Utah. They're not paying me for this little tombstone or whatever the heck you want to call it. But Goldmine doesn't own the software. You own the software. So on a personal level, I'm using Goldmine. I don't care if it's a little more work and I got to figure things out. I'd rather own my data than give it off to a company, especially a company where I'm like punching myself in the face. I'm trying to get more people to be free, and and follow capitalism and freedom like in a true form. And then I'm going to fund some guy who's turning around and trying to figure out ways, to push a globalist agenda. No, it's not happening. I'm not interested. And so I think we all need to start doing that on our own level of what matters most to us. Okay. Disclaimer. Oh, I see. Yeah, Mike, I should do a disclaimer. Maybe what I'll do is I'll create a little banner for later. I agree with you. I'll do a little disclaimer on the bottom with preactive. Maybe I'll just expand the banner. And I'll say it at the end as well. Okay, so next thing is there's a company called Beyond Meat, which is, these weird, I call it weird for myself. It's just weird for me, guys. These synthetic type of meats, and they come up with, I think it's legumes or something that make it taste like meat. And, I want to talk about them because they're signing a deal with McDonald's. Now, I don't have an opinion on McDonald's. I don't have an opinion on Beyond Meat, but what I do have an opinion on is food. As someone who eats it every single day, maybe a little more than I need to be. But what I will say is, on a personal level, and I'm just tying it to companies. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to try to tie our life to how these companies behave and how we might want to interact with them a little differently. When I eat ingredients where the item that I'm buying, that's the only ingredient in it. So if I buy eggs, there's nothing else in that egg. When I buy bacon, it's just bacon. And there's nothing else in it, and then I buy meat, or I have lamb. All I can tell you is that all those types of foods, when I buy them in a pure form, I tend to lose weight naturally, eating the same number of calories. I have no idea if it's just a coincidence. I don't have the scientific proof of this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dietitian. I'm just saying that when I eat the same number of calories, I've done the math on this. When I watch, I'm like, you know what? I want to eat a certain number of calories. And if I eat those number of calories, if I eat it where it's just pure ingredients, if I eat it when it's just processed type of ingredients, weight always tends to come off. And it got me thinking, maybe there's chemicals or these preservatives or everything else are disrupting the way our body, maybe they're aiding in our body storing excess energy. I know it sounds bizarre, but I'm not a biochemist, but I've always been wondering if there's something going on where these foods are not just that it's unhealthy or something. It's maybe there's some, maybe there's some weird intent going on. I don't know. I'm just saying that we should be examining that, all these different types of additives and chemicals in our food, if that alone is creating some of the weight issues in this country. And I'm not sure why that's not more widely discussed, because we do have a problem with obesity in this country that we need to solve long term, because obesity not only impacts our national health, it impacts our national productivity, our brains. 20 to 30% of our oxygen levels are used by our brains. Well, if our circulatory system's not working properly, then we don't get full use of our brain. And it's kind of like putting a bunch of dust on the back of your computer, where you need a fan going to let it cool off. The computer can slow down and maybe burn out, and the burning out is us with the trip to the hospital. So I think that's something we should be looking at, as well as chemicals in the environment. But anyways, when I saw that Beyond Meat, I thought it was very suspect, and not suspect, but it's worth exploring. How's that? So the other thing I want to talk about is the oil industry. So Texas is the largest, producer of oil in the United States, and obviously part of President Trump's big push when he was president was to get us off of foreign reliance on oil. Now, everybody recalls years ago, you saw the Bush family going over to the Middle East all the time, shaking hands with all these sheiks and everything, and there was a lot of money that changed hands between Barry and Bush. The accumulated, and you could pull this up yourself if you go pull the trade data. The numbers, the amount of money that went to Saudi Arabia alone during Barry and Bush, I think it was about 145, 150 billion dollars trade surplus. 145, 150 billion. Now, what's significant about that number is the number of people in Saudi Arabia. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Saudi Arabia might have like 28 million people. Let's take a look real quick. So if Saudi Arabia has 28 million people, and they pulled in, actually it's up to 34 million now. Okay, so 34 million people, and they pulled in 145 to 150 billion dollars of surplus during that time in a country where, the royal family there, and there's nothing royal about them. These people are thugs. They're just legacy thugs of history. The people at the top that stole all this nation's wealth, they are the ones that collected most of that money. And then they went around the world bribing officials, is what it seems like. And I think there was a news story yesterday about the guy killing, it came out that the U.S. said he definitely did kill that reporter in Turkey that was going to break a story. So, I'm bringing this up because we've had some very, very bizarre weather in Texas. Now, some people are saying it might be some solar thing that caused this. But if you can try to cripple this outflow of money back to a region of the world that doesn't really like us very much and has done things to undermine democracy worldwide, you would try to cripple, maybe through a weather weapon, and there's information about it, go look it up yourself, and hit the state in the United States that was most responsible for this outflow of the surplus with Saudi Arabia. You got to remember, by the time President Trump, a couple of years in, the surplus, the trade surplus that Saudi Arabia had with the United States went to zero. And so a lot of people don't know that. They haven't reported that anywhere. I happen to look at these types of numbers just to understand global flows of money. And what I'm telling you is, since Bolshevik Biden took office, if you look at the price of oil, I think it's up almost, probably at least $15, $20 a barrel. I think it's over $60 now. So these things are not being examined by our press, and the people need we need to create our own network of information sharing and knowledge of what's taking place in this economy. Think of it as like a private citizen NSA. And I've been talking with some people about ideas that they have and what they're going to be doing. And longer term, I think that I might throw myself into that type of involvement to get something going on a private level, because we're not getting all the data to better assess who's doing what to us. And Lara, I think it could. I think that definitely the technology was probably from China. So I agree with you that it should definitely be examined. So speaking of China, Lara, you just handed me one because CNBC today said that China's economy may double by 2035. And so they're going to pass the United States up along the way. Now, my argument to that is, if the United States stops sending them money, and you can do your part by trying to avoid buying Chinese goods, you have every right to do that. I have every right to suggest that you do that, at least for the time being, until they try to stop us from communicating that message to each other. they're just a huge debt. I call it the Great Debt of instead of the Great Wall of China, it's the Great Wall of Debt. That country has so much debt. It probably added 4x the number, 4 times as much debt over the previous decade relative to the size of the GDP compared to the United States. So that debt is going to hang over that country for a very long time. So how do you cripple a country that has a lot of debt like China? Don't buy for a while and don't give them the money to refinance that debt. And that 2035 doubling, it's not going to happen. They're going to collapse. And that's what happened in the Soviet Union. If you think about it, when, there's a bunch of things that happened in the Soviet Union, but money flows into a nation can cause it to collapse if the money flows stop, especially if it's already built on nothing. It's like, in terms of they stole a lot of the intellectual property for decades. They have slave labor, which I don't have any gripe with the Chinese people themselves, but communism is an evil scourge, and that leadership has enslaved the people of that country. Don't believe me? Go look at Taiwan and go look at Singapore and other countries of people of Chinese descent, and they're producing 5-6 times as much money per person. And they're doing that because they're free. They're free nations, and with freedom comes more economic prosperity. With thuggery comes slavery. And so that's the big difference between the communist system and this freedom. So that's what China is saying. So now with regards to Facebook, Facebook is saying they're going to try to do facial recognition software. So they're going to try to get that onto smart glasses. I'm probably going to be weaning myself off of Facebook. I have been banned for 30 days. I think I have 24 days left because of my testimony in Arizona. So let me make this clear. I was called to testify in Arizona. I posted a clip about that testimony on Facebook in early December, and they banned me for posting what I had publicly shared before elected government officials. Now, these lawsuits at some point have to really gain traction because these people are criminals for what they're doing. As far as I'm concerned, they're violating our constitutional rights. Now, if you are a business and somebody comes in and works for you and they turn around and they happen to have black skin, brown skin, they're white, and you happen to be black, whatever, you mistreat that person on the basis of their skin, and you tell them so, you got a big problem. Like, you're getting sued, you're going to lose money in court, you might have criminal damages depending on how you do it. And that's good that we have these laws that protect all Americans, okay? But when it comes to someone as blatantly violating our constitutional rights as Facebook, as Google, as Twitter, and we are not punching them in the face hard with lawsuits that penalize them for violating our rights, then something is wrong with our judicial system, or something is wrong with our laws that did not convert to the digital aspect of things. And I think that this is what I would call digital feudalism. They're trying to create this weird I know people talk about dystopia, but it's like a digital feudalism. They're the lord and we're the serfs, and they call the shots on their little estate that we financed. I want to make something very clear. We, the people of the United States of America, financed and funded the creation of the internet, okay? It was our tax money that funded all of these technologies that we now see in these companies. Why? Because of this guy named President Ronald Reagan. To defeat the communist Soviet Union, we spent $1.5 trillion in 4 years when our economy was a heck of a lot smaller than it is today. But what he did is it led to an explosion of the number of mathematicians and scientists and engineers that tackled this problem to try to defeat communism. Think of it as like, it was a different version of what happened to build the Manhattan Project to defeat the Japanese with building the nuclear bomb. And when Reagan did that, and then we finally defeated the Soviet Union, USSR, for those of you that don't remember, all that talent, everybody was crying, all these people are going to be out of work. They didn't get out of work. They got picked up right by our tech industry. And all those people were located, a lot of them in California. There was a decent number in Texas. Those industries were all sprouted with all this IP, this intellectual property that you and I paid for. Now, what's disgusting about this situation is we, the people, funded all this IP and then companies that have made trillion-dollar fortunes just picked it up off the shelf from the United States government. And they didn't pay, I don't think they paid what was a fair share for the fact that we, the people, funded it. Look into it yourself. There's very weird laws that were passed by corrupt politicians that got greased to allow this to happen. And I think it's wrong that it happened. So, I'm bringing it up because now you got a company like Facebook that might very well have been tied to the CIA in one way or another. And then they're doing this type of crap where not only do they ban people that are not lying across the country or have a different point of view. Now they want you to use some glasses where they can recognize your face. And then when you walk somewhere, they'll have cameras linked in probably through the Internet of Things to know your movement anytime you go anywhere in this country or this world. So they're trying to create this surveillance state, and don't give them your information is my suggestion. We need to create a digital Bill of Rights and a freedom. We have to take our identity back is what it is. Right now, it's against the law for me to use your information to create an identity that says I'm you. Okay? That's just the way it is, as it should be. If I go try to set up a bank account with your name and all your personal information, I'm going to jail. When these companies do it with millions of people and they create digital avatars, and they're trying to clone us in a digital way using AI to mimic our behaviors and possibly contact our friends. This is some of the stuff that's in the works, folks. Go look into it yourself. And, there's no laws preventing them from trying to do this. And there's no laws to block countries like China from entering our space. They should be permanently blocked. We should not allow any foreign government access to our personal information on U.S. soil. Why is this happening? I have no desire to go into another country and pull the personal information of other citizens. But why are our politicians not protecting our digital information, our personal body, our body? Like it's like letting the Chinese come into our house and look around. And we're letting them do that digitally on everything that we're doing in this country on an individual basis. Because these companies, they'll just sell it to whoever will pay it. They'll sell them our information about how we move, where our GPS location is, what we look at, what we're buying. It's just outrageous. And so we definitely need to mobilize much better. And that's going to start where we need to all get a little more educated to make this happen. And so I hope you found the video helpful. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to it. It's 6:36, and I guess I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I'll probably chime back in with an update later in the afternoon, and see what the day brings the markets and the country. So thank you. Have a blessed day, and I will talk to you guys soon.